Welcome back to my channel, and here's everything you need to know before you go to Indiana Beach. This is the first of this type of video that I've made so far, so if you'd like me to turn this into a series, leave a comment to let me know what parks you'd like to see this style of video for. Without further ado, let's get into it. Indiana Beach is located in Monticello, Indiana, which is a pretty rural area, so unfortunately there's not really any public transportation that runs near Indiana Beach. So your best bet is probably to drive here. The park is about an hour and a half drive from the Indianapolis airport, an hour and 45 minutes from the Fort Wayne airport, and 2 hours and 15 minutes from Chicago's airports. For anyone driving from the Chicago region or driving south on I-65, my GPS always tells me to get off at exit 205 to Rensselaer and Remington, which is the fastest route, but it will take you down these gravel, unpaved farm roads. So I would recommend getting off at the next exit towards Wolcott because that route will take you down paved, more well-lit streets. There's two entrances to the park, the north and south entrance. The north entrance has free parking but with a bit of a walk to the entrance itself, but for a fee you can park closer to the entrance in a paved lot, and this is also free to pass holders. This entrance is also closer to the on-site lodging. The south entrance, on the other hand, has a free parking lot, but it is gravel, and the entrance is the one where you'll cross over the suspension bridge into the park. Indiana Beach has a lot of options as to where to stay. I usually stay at either the Beach Inn or the Cabins, both of which are located right on the property, so you usually get some nice views of the park. The Cabins have a little kitchenette inside of them, so they're a good option if you plan on preparing your own meals during your visit. There's also townhouses and cottages for rent, as well as the campground. To my understanding, there's also cabins in the campground, as well as plots for RVs and trailers. The campground is located across the street from the park, but there's a trolley service that goes from the park to the campground. Now, outside the north entrance of Indiana Beach, there's also some motels and B&Bs. I've never stayed in any of them personally, but from the looks of them, I would just recommend staying on site, but they are another option to consider. Indiana Beach has a lot of great options for food within the park, and for reasonable prices too. A lot of the eateries are actually run by independent vendors from around the community. Most of the food options are located outside of the water park entrance towards the north end of the park. One of the local specialties is the Pronto Pup, which is basically a corn dog. In this area you can also find shaved ice, elephant ears, ice cream, and the Blue Jay Cafe, which has your typical burgers and pizza and that type of thing. There's also the Sky Room, which is a sit-down restaurant. The Sky Room was closed in 2020, but it will reopen in 2021, and that is something that's really unique to this park. There's also a small bakery with coffee and sweets further down the midway. Now, I couldn't talk about Indiana Beach without mentioning the famous tacos. The taco shop is located outside Lost Coaster of Superstition Mountain and was featured on the Food Network, so definitely check them out if you're visiting here. There's also the Beach Bar and the Sky Bar for anyone over 21, and the Sky Bar usually stays open past park closing time. Indiana Beach is a pretty small park, so if you only have one day here, you'll probably be able to ride everything and get everything done that you want to. There is a sand beach and a water park that offers a few slides, the Action River, and a splash pad as well. If you want to do the water park and you have a full day here, you could still probably get everything done in the dry park as well. Even on the weekends, the park doesn't get too crowded, so as long as the weather's good and nothing breaks down, you could easily accomplish all that you need to in one day. If you're staying on the campground, there's also some amenities there, like mini golf that you might want to do, so if you're planning on doing some of those things, then you might need 2 days here, but other than that, usually one day can get you everything you need to. Indiana Beach is open from mid-May to the end of October. They do have a Halloween haunt event in weekends in October, which has scare actors, haunted houses, and specialty food items for fall, and there's no extra fees to access any of the haunts or anything, which is a really nice touch. Like all theme parks, the crowds will be the lightest on the weekdays and heavier on the weekends, but again, even the busier days here aren't that busy. And the only rides that really build up lines are the coasters and some of the flat rides like the antique cars. If you're planning on doing the water park, the summer is definitely the time to go for that, but since the crowds are light pretty much all year, there's really not a bad time to go to Indiana Beach. Now, for what most of you have probably been waiting for, what about the rides? Indiana Beach has 5, soon to be 6 coasters with the addition of their relocated Schwarzkopf Looper in 2021. So since this video has been made before it has opened to the public, I will not be covering that coaster in this video. 3 of these coasters are manufactured by the now defunct Custom Coasters International, or CCI, those being Cornball Express, Hoosier Hurricane, and the Lost Coaster of Superstition Mountain. Now, Cornball is my favorite out of these 3 CCIs, and I highly recommend you try it both in the very front and very back seats. This thing is highly underrated airtime, and it's definitely worth trying in both of these seats. Hoosier Hurricane, in my opinion, is a bit on the rougher side, and doesn't offer as strong of forces as Cornball, but this thing really shines in its location. It goes right along the lake and offers great views of the whole park and the lake as well. Lost Coaster, despite its stats, is a truly unique ride that was actually converted from a dark ride, and you won't find a ride like this anywhere else in the world. Now, on Lost Coaster, you have the option to face either forwards or backwards, but if you want to see the theming and understand the story, I would recommend sitting forwards, and if you prefer a bit more of a wilder ride, I would recommend sitting backwards. The other 2 coasters are Tiger and Steel Hog, both of which are the steel and smoother coasters in the park. Tiger actually has a higher height requirement of 54 inches, yet it is a bit more tame than Steel Hog in my opinion. And Steel Hog, in its small footprint, really packs in a punch, so definitely make sure you don't miss that one while you're here. Indiana Beach has a pretty standard collection of flat rides, but they do have some vintage models like the Paratrooper and their Falling Star. A lot of these rides interact with the lake, most notably the water swings, which have riders soar over the lake, and quite honestly, I always think I'm going to fall in. There's also a sky ride and a train that are great for going from one end of the park to the other, although be warned, the sky ride does have very minimal restraints, so if that freaks you out, now you know. There's also some bumper boats and a log flume for those hot summer afternoons. Near all the coasters is a Kiddieland area for anyone traveling with small children. It's a good size, and I quite enjoyed it when I was a kid. There is 2 upcharge attractions, which are the Sky Coaster that swings riders over the lake, and the Haunted Castle, which was made free during 2020's Haunt event. This walkthrough is pretty long and is usually just the animatronics, but they did add live actors for their Halloween Haunt event. Ride policies here are pretty standard, so no cameras, loose items, stuff like that. All of the rides do have bins for loose articles, but there's also lockers near the food vendors on the north end of the park if you prefer. I was asked to remove my fanny pack for most of the roller coasters, so be aware of that if you're also a fanny pack user. You can choose your seat on most of the coasters, but in my experience, they usually assign seats for Lost Coaster. If there's no line for the roller coasters, they'll let you stay on for the next ride. Operations are okay here. It doesn't seem like the ops are always prioritizing the fastest dispatches, but because the park doesn't draw too many lines, it's usually not that big of a deal. All of the wooden coasters usually run 1 train, although I've heard rumors that they're hoping to add 2 trains to Hoosier Hurricane, maybe to Lost Coaster in future years, but in 2020 all the Woodies were running with 1 train ops. Alright, that's going to conclude it for this video today. I hope this was helpful to anyone planning on visiting the park for the first time. If there's any information that I didn't mention that you would like to see in a future video for this series, make sure to leave a comment and let me know. If you're not subscribed, I would love to see you stick around for future videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.